Welcome back to In Your Neighborhood. I'm your host, Sharla Brown, and if you're just tuning in, we've been talking with Mrs. and Dr. Cahoon today all about remembering the General, and that being the Port Arthur General Hospital. Just before the break, I was speaking with you, Dr. Cahoon, about just the changes over the years and how a hospital needs to keep up with advancements in medicine, technology, all that stuff. I'm curious as to some of the cutting-edge treatments that were made available at the Port Arthur General during your time there, and significant things that you saw happen and change at the hospital.
That'd be hard to elucidate on all of them. It was sort of a constant change, and they would change with new doctors coming too. Of course, you would see a new specialist would come, and he would have new training and new ideas and new techniques, and then the hospital would introduce new methods of investigation. I can remember when the first CAT scan came to Thunder Bay, and the first MRI, because of Senator Norman Patterson, we were one of the early hospitals in Canada to have the new form of radiation treatment, and that was a marvelous step forward. The cancer clinic here is still regarded as an outstanding clinic.
Absolutely. And I understand cardiac care as well. I know I spoke with Shirley, who she's going to join us for the next segment, but that there was a lot of advancements in cardiac care that happened at the Port Arthur General as well.
Oh, sure. We were short of specialists in Thunder Bay for a long time. With the opening of the hospital, the new hospital, and the new medical school, that's stopped now. We are well supplied with highly trained specialists. And you mentioned cardiologists. You don't attract a new cardiologist nowadays unless you've got all the bells and whistles.
Right.
And we've got them in this hospital now. And they're even talking about open heart surgery. And that'll happen here.
Absolutely.
Probably not for a few years, but it's great. So but that's up to date technology, and it's here in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, and nice to have it close to home, that people aren't having to be sent to Hamilton or somewhere else to go. That you have the comforts of home, especially because we're a hospital for the north. You know, it's already, people are making lots of times a trip here too.
Well, it saves lots of money for the system to have people treated here.
Absolutely, for sure. And Catherine, I'm curious about with the auxiliary, you know, how did the ladies auxiliary change and grow over the years to meet the needs of the hospital and the student nurses and the nurses residents and all that stuff?
Well, when you look back on the history of it, they really started out, the women were the pushers, and they were the ones that looked after the student nurses, saw that they got a residence, and had proper care. Jim was the nurse for one of the hospitals, so I assume that
I was the doctor.
you were the doctor for the nurses.
For the School of Nursing, yeah.
Try that again.
Nice.
But they were well looked after as they were being trained, and so there was that aspect of it, and they were involved in everything from the food the patients were getting to the care on the floor. They were there, and then the fundraising, that was a big part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. And it always is, you know.
Well,
there's only so much that's paid for
absolutely.
by the government, and there's lots that we need to do all the time to help as a community.
That's so true.
Absolutely. So I'm curious as to what, why you wanted to get involved with building the monument to commemorate the Port Arthur General Hospital, and why that was important for you to become honorary chairs to do this.
Well, the hospital occupied, a
big part of our lives.
Big role in with Port Arthur in its early stages, of course, but then Thunder Bay. But the hospital's gone now, and this is one of the few, tangible remnants of it that can remind people of a really great hospital that served the community for years.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Catherine?
Oh, I think he's expressed it very well. It was a big part of our lives,
Yeah.
and I just was very sad, happy that we were going to have a new hospital, but very sad that the general was going to be torn down. It was a major part of our week. I was out there 2 or 3 times a week, depending on which position I had.
What hat you were wearing that day?
What hat I was wearing that day.
Yeah.
But then Jim was there every day.
Yep, morning, noon, and night, I'm sure.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it was very much part of our lives.
Yeah, and I'm sure not just to you both, but thousands of lives of doctors that work there, nurses that work there, technologists, assistants that work there, patients that went there, people who were born there. It's part of our history, so I think that's great that we're working to preserve that.
I think so too.
So let's leave with maybe a memory, a favorite memory that you have from the Port Arthur General. If you could each maybe share one with me, I'm curious as to what that would be.
That's a tough question. I guess one of the things, the first year I was here, I started in July, and I have friends in Port Arthur, of course, and we were going partridge shooting for a weekend. And my buddies all took off on Friday, and of course I couldn't take off Friday. I was working, but I joined them Friday evening, and I was driving down the highway, and I saw this truck coming at me from the other way. It was a half-ton truck. It was sort of veering around a bit, and then he went over to the shoulder. The guy hopped out and was waving his hands. He had developed a flat tire. And it turns out his wife was in the car, and she was about to deliver a baby.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "Mike, help me out." I said, "Well, let's have a look." And he said, he was very happy to find out that I was a doctor. So, actually, she delivered the baby, of course, wrapped the baby in my hunting jacket.
Wow.
And we cut the cord with his...
with a hunting knife.
His knife is actually a penknife, and we tied it with bits of cloth. We torn off something.
Wow.
So we took back to the general hospital, and the night supervisor was there at that time. Had never met me, didn't know who I was.
Oh, wow.
And one, I'd only been there for a number of months, and she said, "And who are you?" I'm walking around my old clothes on,
oh, that's
carrying
awesome.
this
Yeah, your
baby,
hunting clothes.
And giving orders.
Yeah, telling the nurses knew who I was, but she didn't.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
that was quite
Awesome.
interesting. Mrs. Raynaud was her name.
Wonderful. Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful memory. I want to thank you both, Dr. Cahoon and Mrs. Cahoon, for being on the show today and telling us stories and all the rich history of the Port Arthur General and how it's changed. Our last segment we're going to spend with Shirley King, who's the chair of Remembering the General. So I just again want to thank you for your years of service in our community. And keep watching. We'll be right back with more on In Your Neighborhood.